An unresourceful trait that may develop in the pursuit of self-growth is the habit of perfectionism. Understanding perfectionism and how to reframe associated thinking patterns can help manage the negative aspects of this learned behavior that can otherwise drain our personal effectiveness and productivity and lead to self-emotional sabotage. Perfectionism is the trait where you set an exceptionally high standard of performance and achievement. In the Chinese zodiac, the rooster is a symbol of perfectionism, composed of dignity, pride, organization, envy, and unfaltering strong conviction. A healthy dose of perfectionism, often referred to as the pursuit of excellence, is beneficial in driving improvement and innovation. Attention to detail and the incredibly high quality of your work may get you recognition. You spend less time fixing mistakes in your finished project, and you are typically more organized. However, perfectionism can also turn you into your own worst enemy and lead you to sabotage yourself with self-defeating behaviors. With greater awareness, perfectionists can learn to limit the negative behaviors and thinking patterns that lead them down unresourceful paths. As a perfectionist, you often imagine the immaculate vision of how things should be. Perfectionism is often a pride or fear-based compulsion, and you may become obsessed about every detail and get caught up by the need to do everything perfectly. This obsession over too many details may create a great deal of pain towards the task at hand and often leads you to procrastinating as a form of avoidance behavior. Procrastination can also be justified because you often rationalize this with stories or excuses of why you need to wait for the right conditions to work. You are too tired, there is not enough time now, you are waiting for winter to come, or some arbitrary condition that has to be fulfilled before you can start. Of course, you only end up fooling yourself because the perfect condition rarely comes along. Once this thinking loop takes hold, it can be difficult to break free and do something meaningful until your goals become a heavy burden. In the end, you tend to put off your dreams and goals, and it can hold you back in life. Over time, this failure can foster negativity or depression through self-criticism and ultimately drain your self-esteem. The tendency of a perfectionist to set extremely high standards can exhibit in neurotic-like behavior. Your high expectations can make it difficult for you to ask for help or let go of work as you become afraid to delegate or drive other people crazy by micromanaging them when you do. In personal relationships, you may place unrealistic expectations on your loved ones to be perfect. If unmanaged, your excessive anxiety over work or relationships may lead to health problems. You may turn to compulsive drinking or eating to deal with the unhappiness. Many scientific studies have shown that the stress created by perfectionist-like thinking can contribute to a higher probability of experiencing cardiac problems, irritable bowel syndrome, insomnia, and other sleep-related issues known to be associated with increased risk of diabetes, cancers, and stroke. Finally, even when you achieve your goals, there is a constant dissatisfaction and the feeling that nothing is ever enough. This stems from the tendency to fall into what is known as dichotomous thinking or black or white thinking. You tend to view situations as absolute, A or B, win, lose, like, dislike, good, bad, always, never, do, don't. People in this category often judge success very quickly, think they can always do better, and generally put themselves in column B. Thinking this way, you can easily forget or dismiss the reality that the world is composed of shades of grey. The good news is that perfectionism is a behavior or habit of thought, not something you are born with. If any habit is sabotaging your life, it is a good idea to find ways to change or manage it. Firstly, in order to deal with your procrastination, you need to know that there isn't a right time for anything. Gathering large amounts of information, analyzing details, and setting up the right conditions beyond a certain point does not guarantee better decisions. Conditions change along the way, and how you approach the problem is usually different when you progress along the task. As Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, said, "Do not wait, the time will never be just right. Start where you stand, and work with whatever tools you may have at your command, and better tools will be found as you go along." Secondly, it is useful to be aware of your thought patterns and record these thoughts. Listen out for words you use and your internal dialogue. Your dichotomous thinking will lead you to use what is called extreme language or absolute language. Words like definitely, absolutely, all, none, always, never, everyone. Absolute language generally leaves no doubt, is often an exaggeration of reality, or pushes the limits of truth. Non-fiction writers usually employ this type of language to persuade you to think a certain way. Dr. Martin Seligman's explanatory theory explains how perfectionistic people have a tendency towards negative or pessimistic thinking habits because you interpret events as stable, global, and/or internal. What this means is when you fail to achieve your expectations, you have a tendency to think failure is a stable and consistent experience for you. You think your failure this time is consistent with your failures across all other skills and at all other times, and that the failure was 100% your fault. Contrast this to optimistic individuals who tend to think their failure this time does not mean they fail every time. They think failure this time does not impact on whether they will fail on other tasks or at other times, and at least part of the failure is due to circumstances outside of their control. Therefore, in order to manage your self-dialogue and shift away from self-criticism, when you fall short of your expectations, you need to ask yourself better questions. Ask yourself, just because things didn't work out as expected this time, does it mean things will never work out for me every time? Or, just because I failed on this specific task, does that mean that things will not work out for me on all tasks? Or, how much of a specific failure was due to things outside of my control? Thirdly, changing how you see failure is also beneficial in overcoming the destructive emotions when you fall short of reaching your high standards. Reframing failure into what did I learn and how can I change establishes a resourceful cycle of improvement and inspiration instead of a vicious cycle of self-loathing. For example, if you were asked what is the name of a nocturnal, semi-aquatic and wood-eating rodent and you answered beaver, instead of realizing your mistake and thinking, I'm so dumb, stop and learn that beaver is the incorrect answer and the correct answer is beaver. Learning from failure allows you to move forward and not dwell on the past. In this way, you do not let your past actions pull you down and stop you from future actions. Asking yourself, what could be good about this situation? Or, when you encounter a potential negative, immediately start a sentence in your mind with fortunately. Then go to describe the positive from what has happened and the opportunity that has been created. You remove failure, instead there is only win, or one step closer to a win. This allows you to celebrate not only your victories, but also your progress and incremental improvements irrespective of the result. In this way, you become solution-focused, not problem-focused. Finally, as a perfectionist, you need to value yourself and your relationship towards other people around you. Consistently sacrificing your health and mental well-being in order to satisfy perfectionistic urges tells your subconscious that it is okay to compromise your self-respect. Start by delegating lower priority or non-urgent tasks. Ask for help from other people when you are struggling, and make your health a priority. Treat yourself like you matter. In summary, perfectionism can be a positive trait if it manifests as the pursuit of excellence and the desire to achieve your personal best without self-criticism when you fall short of your goals. Through self-awareness and consciously practicing resourceful thinking habits such as asking better questions, reframing failure into a learn and change mentality, and looking after yourself better, you can manage perfectionism to your benefit and free yourself from the tyranny of its curse.